This is Vinca minor variegata. And Vinca minor is a very popular ground cover. We can use this in a very large range of areas. It's hardy down to minus 20, 30 degrees Fahrenheit, so can be used in a lot of different areas. The group you're seeing here, so this is Vinca minor variegata, which is just a variegated form of Vinca minor, and it has the white leaf margins and a lighter green foliage to begin with. So in shady areas, this is great because it brings in a little light where it's otherwise quite dark. And if you see in the background there some other green foliage, you see some of the contrast. Here's Vinca minor, and I'm using this photo so you can see the purple flower that periwinkle is known for. So the common name is variegated periwinkle. So let's get into using this in design. This is in a park in Vancouver, British Columbia, and they get snow during the winter. They don't get very harsh winters, but they do get snow periodically, and their low temperatures are usually in the 20s Fahrenheit. They don't get severe cold, but apparently this can handle areas that do get more cold than that. And there aren't a lot of evergreen ground covers that can handle that type of thing and come back from it. I have a client that lived in Virginia and they got snow on a regular basis and said that it handled it just fine. So the variegated form has all the same characteristics as Vinca minor. It's just that it has this lighter colored leaf. And sometimes in a design, that's what you're looking for. You see it here contrasting with the foliage of the tree hanging down into it. And that's how I like to use it. I'm really more of a designer that uses this as an accent as opposed to the whole show. But I would say that if you have a very dark area, this isn't a bad play in terms of design because it does bring a lot of light. I liked how this played in this area. It's got a very natural feel to it. The depth on this is probably 8 to 12 inches deep, and it doesn't look like they really do anything to it. This is its natural growth. That said, let's talk about how to pair it with other plants, because my experience with Vinca minor is that because it is a survivor, it's kind of a vine-like ground cover, is it roots from its stems. So if it touches moist soil, that stem will root, and that's how it spreads and grabs hold. And then once that's happened, like you see here, it starts to pile up on itself a little bit, but not as badly as something like a English ivy or something that really gets deep. There's no real wood to this plant, and one of the ways to maintain it is you can actually mow it. And I see some people do that to keep it low as 4 inches deep. Is every season, once it's established, they'll come in and mow it to the ground, and then that way every year it doesn't exceed that 4 inches plus or minus, and you get a neater, more groomed look to the space. One of the things I love about Vinca minor is you can walk all over it, so it takes traffic if you've got dogs in the yard or kids and balls are flying into the planting bed, that type of a thing, maintenance people, and you need to get in there and clean up. Leaf droppage. This is one of the most durable ground covers that's semi-controlled that I use, and I would say I probably use Vinca minor more than any other ground cover because of that. But as I was starting to say, the thing about it is compatibility. I like using this with trees and larger shrubs, but if you start to use it with smaller shrubs, and like even azaleas, which I know aren't that small, but that are perennials, this stuff can strangle those other plants out. So you have to be careful about what you pair it with and just make sure you're not creating a headache that you can't fix, because I've seen a lot of designers use this with smaller shrubs, and after 3 to 5 years the Vinca is winning the battle and strangling out the smaller plants. So be aware of that when you're thinking about how to use that. See how here they've used it, and on the edges are the bigger shrubs and so forth, but there's no competition with smaller plants. And again, I've seen a lot of plants killed off by Vinca minor. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing to be aware of when you're using this, is pairing it with other plants. So that's Vinca minor. Oh, very deer resistant. The deer leave this alone. Regular water though. I live in a hot inland valley in Northern California, gets 90 to 100 degrees and low humidity. This plant is fine. I even have this in full sun in my climate, but as a result, I have to keep it a little wetter than you would if you had it in some shade. So very versatile, can take full shade, can take full sun. Would prefer parts sun in hot areas like mine, but can tolerate the sun as long as it has the added moisture to get it through that. And that's what I can tell you about Vinca minor. Spacing, I like to space these about 3 feet on center from 1-gallon containers. Some people grow these from cuttings or small pots when they're young. We have a large number of losses when we use those small ones, so I stopped doing that years ago, and we use these from 1-gallon containers because you've got a 2-year-old plant that will really take off and grow quickly for you if you get one of that size. And that's Vinca minor Variegata, Variegated Periwinkle. Here are some really nice companion plants to consider when using Vinca minor. Enjoy.